you all for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you for all the work you do at ICA every single week, every single day. We have staff here too. And it's just great to see all these faces in one room. And I was kind of wondering, are you all sitting next to your shift mates? Yes. Yeah. But you can see the other faces around the room, and we have such wonderful groups of volunteers. Thanks for being here today. But as you know, ICA has 3 programs. We do employment support, we do homelessness prevention, and our biggest program is providing food, of which I think most of you are involved in. And we want to do something more than just provide food. We want to make sure our neighbors, when they come to ICA, are feeling the dignity that they deserve. We want to provide choices, but we don't want to just provide choices. We want to provide nutritious choices. We know that we think about people who are struggling, and we know that if they go to the grocery store, they can buy non-nutritious food for much cheaper and fill up on it much cheaper. But in the long run, that's not good for them, and it's not good for us to have people not have nutritious choices. So we were introduced to the concept of SuperShelf maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't know. And I just remember, I don't know, Natalie, did you make the call to them? Did I make the call? I don't know. You heard about it and we asked me to call. Right, so Natalie called and we said, both of us, but we wanted to be part of this movement, this SuperShelf movement. And we were told, well, you know, we've heard that we have a pretty good food shelf. And so we kind of thought, okay, but we know we can be even better. So we called and said, okay, could you just give us some tips? And then Nathan and Nora came on the scene, and they have done much more than give us tips. We've been able to be part of the full super, at least we feel like it. You haven't told us that we're not, but we feel like we're part of the whole SuperShelf program. So let me I'll introduce you to Nathan and Nora, and they're our 2 SuperShelf experts. And Nathan Hess is a regional SNAP ed educator with the University of Minnesota Extension, and he's the lead consultant for SuperShelf. Nathan's role in SuperShelf, and I'm reading this because I don't want to miss anything or say it wrong. His role in SuperShelf is to help guide consultants actively engaged in the SuperShelf transformation, as well as helping to train future consultants. We have a whole state of food shelves. I want to say out there 300 and...
Closer to 400.
Okay, 400. So, you know, there's a lot of territory that needs to be covered, so we're training future consultants. In his role, Nathan also works closely with partners across the system to help SuperShelf movement, the SuperShelf movement, and get closer to our vision of a transformed food system where everyone thrives. I love that everyone thrives. And that's our goal at ICA too. We have Nora Gordon, and she has a master's in public health from the University of Minnesota. She's at the University of Minnesota with the Department of Family Medicine and Community Health, and she is the SuperShelf Project Community Outreach Specialist. Prior to her work with SuperShelf, she worked for over 8 years in the retail grocery business at a local co-op where she learned merchandising and behavioral economics. And if you don't know what that is, you will by the time you get out of here. And so I think that's such a great combination of things. She went on to work with the city of Minneapolis, the health department, where she worked on obesity and chronic disease prevention, and convened the Healthy Food Shelf Network. So currently in her role as SuperShelf, Nora supports the transformations, and that's what's going to happen at ICA on September 11th and 12th. And she works closely with food shelf managers and community partners to grow the emerging movement of SuperShelf sites across Minnesota. So they'll present first, and then Natalie is going to talk about some more specifics on what it means for ICA. And then we'll have a questionnaire that we need you to fill, or a questionnaire, some paperwork to fill out. because we have different people who are funding this project, and they need to show how many people they are educating. We want them to show that we were educated. So I'm going to first, you're welcome. So Nathan, you have your first?
Nora and I are both going to, yeah, we're both going to
okay.
jump up
You're
here.
on. You're on. And you want the clicker or you want to do it? It's the right button.
I'll try. If it's too much for me, I'll have to give it back to you.
Right button.
You have to stand on the right side.
And I have to stand over on the right side. All right. Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Nora Gordon, and I'm with the University of Minnesota. I'm the SuperShelf lead consultant, as Peg graciously introduced me. That's awesome. And just to give you a little bit of background, so we at SuperShelf are super excited to work with you at ICA. And when we got the call from Natalie that you were interested, we were really excited. Nathan and I were both really excited to come out and see ICA and see the great work you're already doing. And when we took a tour of this food shelf, we knew right away that SuperShelf was an awesome fit for you guys, because there was so much good work already being done here that SuperShelf was really just a natural fit for what you're already doing, and fits in so great with your mission and your values that you already have. So thank you for being such great volunteers to be here and to support this work. We really appreciate it. So tonight we're going to talk about the SuperShelf transformation, what it is, what it looks like, how we got here, and a little bit about what you can expect to see as ICA transforms into a SuperShelf. And then Nathan's going to talk a little bit about behavioral economics, which is kind of a fancy word for nudging, or kind of nudging a healthy choice, and using a lot like a grocery store, using the layout and how foods are displayed to offer a healthy choice for your clients. So that's kind of the rundown of what's going to happen today. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, so jumping in, how do you want to do this?
We can probably skip this just because
Yeah.
otherwise we're going to be here for an hour.
Yeah.
I would love to know all of your names, but if we each took a minute to do that, we would actually be here for an hour.
Yes.
So I apologize. We're just going to, we've got like 3 introductions left. We're going to end up skipping.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. All right, so I'm just going to jump right into what food security and what food insecurity is. So I think many people, a lot of us have heard this term of food insecurity or food security, but what it really means, food security, it's a federal measure that looks at each household's ability to provide enough food for each member of the household, and as they do that, lead a healthy and active lifestyle. And that's really key to what food security means. So it's not just providing any food, it's really providing food for their family that will lead a healthy and active lifestyle. So really be able to be a healthy person in our world. And so if you look at a food secure household, you might find things like fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, home cooked meals, things like that on the table, things like this that you're seeing in the photos. However, in contrast, what we often see in food insecure households is a lot more processed foods, and that's because processed foods are a lot less expensive. You can buy them many places, they're easier to find, you can get them at gas stations and corner stores, and you can find them at most places in your supermarket. Oftentimes they're the first thing you see, like sometimes when you walk into your supermarket, there's like the wall of a little bit lower priced goods, and then the next, when you walk in a little farther, that's your produce, and that's when you can shop the perimeter. But oftentimes in the center is a more convenience and processed foods, and Peg started to touch into this a little bit, that oftentimes what we see in food insecure households is that people are using their disposable income to buy the foods that they can afford, which often becomes a highly processed food. So why SuperShelf? So I want to back up just a little bit, I think, and talk a little bit about history. So just to paint a little bit of a picture of how we got here is that SuperShelf was born out of a project at Valley Outreach Food Shelf in Stillwater. And it was a partnership called Better Shelf for Better Health, and it was with HealthPartners. And they did some really awesome work to develop some of the foundational steps in SuperShelf that we still use today across the board in all of our SuperShelf sites. They really thought they were onto something, and it was a really great thing that was happening when they did a transformation. So instead of writing a toolkit, they decided that they wanted to do this in more sites. So they got some grant funding and did a pilot in more food shelves, White Bear Lake, 360 Communities, a few more of that Wade House. Yeah, a few more sites throughout the state happened, and more super shelves became certified. And what we found is that this work really is transformational and can be deep. So when you look at a systems level within a food shelf of how foods are procured, how they are distributed to clients, and how clients select foods, and what they see when they walk in really matters, and it really sends a message to them about how much they're valued as people, and how we respect everybody in our community, and what foods are available to them, and it really impacted the foods that they started to take home. So from there, the U of M got on board a little bit more, and now we have this pretty large NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health. We have a very large grant to study this work in 16 food shelves. Now ICA isn't one of those 16 food shelves, so we're not doing the research study in this food shelf, but we knew that ICA was so far along and they were doing such good work that we wanted to bring them in. So we're doing this work and this transformation in ICA because we know that it's an easy fit, and we want to work with you guys. So that's kind of the background of how we got here. So why SuperShelf? What we know is that SuperShelf aims to change the way we approach our work in food shelves. So from a systems level, we start to work deeply within the systems of the food shelf. And we aim to help food shelves be welcoming, positive environments that support our neighbors' food access with healthier foods in an appealing manner that fosters community. And we also know that our neighbors and many of your clients have identified that they know they want to eat more fruits and vegetables and whole grains and meats and all of the healthy foods that they would like to provide more of, but they often cite that cost is prohibitive. And we did a statewide survey of all the food shelves across Minnesota, and I have some copies here. And so just to, if you guys want to take a few of these on your way out, just to give a few facts. So we heard from over 188 food shelves and over 4,000 clients. And what we really heard across the board is that clients, when they ask what they want to take home from their food shelf, they usually cite they want meat, fish, poultry, dairy, fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables, eggs, and cooking items. So spices, oils, flour, sugar, things like that they can come home and make a meal with. We did this across the board, and we asked this question of a huge list of items, including cookies, candy, baked goods, soda, all those items as well were on this list. And those items that I just listed were the items at the bottom of the list. Very, very few people said that they wanted to take home those processed items, and that's because we can infer that those are the items that oftentimes people have more access to and they can afford. So just to paint that picture a little bit more is that clients really want the healthy choice, and they want fresh fruits and vegetables and more access to lean proteins and meats. So that's really what SuperShelf aims to set out to do. All right, so our mission is to transform food shelves and create welcoming environments for communities to access appealing and healthy food. And our vision is a transformed food system where all people thrive. These are our values, which I'm going to go through kind of quickly, but they really form the foundation of everything that we do. So all of the 6 steps that I'm going to talk about next are really based on these values, and it drives our work both as a team internally when we get together with our partners, how we make decisions about SuperShelf, and also all the sites that we work with. We want to know that these values are embodied by the organization, and it's very clear that these are values that ICA holds very true to their organization. So these values are good food, so reliable access to healthy and appealing food that's culture appropriate, will promote overall health in our communities. Respect for all, and this is really important to us. We believe that client-centered, welcoming, and positive approaches create dignified experiences that further equity in the community. Collaborative partnerships. We believe mutual trust and fully engaged partners build strong communities working towards sustainable systems change. And evidence-based practices. So we believe that excellence comes from thoughtful, rigorous evaluations and reputable solutions. So we want to know that this work can be reproduced into more food shelves and the good work can spread. And systemic thinking. So we believe influencing policy and processes at all levels drives transformational change.
So on that one, not only are we working on changing systemic workings within food shelves, so how we order, how we display foods, but we're also working upstream with food banks on how they can better support food shelves as they move through this work. Because without working upstream on food banks, it makes it a lot harder for then us in the food shelf to procure the foods that our neighbors are asking us for. So that's really that big picture systemic thinking SuperShelf is trying to get as far and wide as we can. So it's important.
All right, this is our fancy 6-step model. And so this is really the process that we are walking through ICA, walking with and going through these steps one by one. And we're at the place where we're probably up in here somewhere where we're about ready to do our transformation. So what this really says is that at our foundation we have our values that we just covered. This really informs the rest of our steps. In step 1, we took a deep look at your supply. So thinking about your food banks, food rescue, how you procure your food, where food comes from, and really taking a look at increasing the quality and getting better foods into that chain. Now, I will say that ICA was doing an amazing job already, and there was very little work we had to do in this area. And that's what made it such an easy fit. And we're really going to look at all the distribution methods that you have and help the organization that we're working with be able to bring in healthier and better foods by working with the food banks and food systems. So after that, we look at stretch, and what that means is adding variety to the food shelf and to the products on the shelf. There's a set of SuperShelf stocking guidelines that have to be met, which ICA was pretty much already meeting without even us having to put it out there. So that was an easy fit for you. Not much had to change with that. But what we're really looking for is that there is a wide variety of choices and colors and all different types of foods in a variety of food groups, from fruits and vegetables to canned fruits and vegetables to frozen to whole grains to regular grains to cereal to everything down the line. What's not on it is the more processed foods, but we really want SuperShelf to have tons of choice. And what this step really is about creating lots of choice. Because when you go into the grocery store, if there's only one type of, can of pasta on the shelf, you might be like, I don't know, I want more choice, right? Like, we are humans. As humans, we want more choice. And that's really what SuperShelf aims to do, is to bring more choice into the equation so that clients can select what they need to feed themselves and their families, and be able to just choose what they need, just like they're shopping at a grocery store. And then after we look at stretch, we look at shifting. So shift is really about reorganizing the food shelf. This is where ICA is going to have some changes, and these are some changes that you are going to see as a volunteer in the food shelf. And what happens is in this step is that we've helped Natalie really rearrange the shopping list to be according to groups of food. So just like you would shop at a grocery store, there's canned fruits and vegetables are always in one section, there's always grains in another section, beans in another section, you know, so on and so forth. So what we did is we took a really deep look at all the foods that were being offered at ICA and started to kind of reorganize them into food groups, and the layout of the food shelf will follow that same categories list. So that's an area that you are going to see some changes in, and we'll get to that a little bit later. A little bit more on what that's going to look like. And the point of this step, let me tell you the point, is that we want to put fruits and vegetables first. So we know that, Ethan, you're really good at this one. Tell them, the one when people walk in and they take, it's the first thing they see, they take more of it.
51% more.
That's
we're going
the
to talk
one.
a
You
lot more
tell
about
me.
that here in a minute.
Can you say that great sentence you always say though?
The first thing we encounter, we take 51% more of.
Yes.
So that's why we put it
So
first.
bad.
And you're going to have to hear me say that in a couple more minutes.
So that's what we do, is we put fruits and vegetables first, and oftentimes the more processed foods are last. We don't take them away as a choice, they're always there, but when you encounter fruits and vegetables and whole grains and foods to make a meal first, you're more apt at taking them first. The analogy I like to use is if you ever go to a buffet line and they put dessert first, what are you gonna take a lot of, right? So it's similar when you're shopping in a grocery store or at your food shelf, wherever. Our human brain wants to go to the first thing that we see first because we want it. And so if we put fruits and vegetables first and other healthy foods, people are more likely to take more of those and fill up their baskets. And then the last step is really where things get really pretty. So that's where, and you guys are always so beautiful already. There's actually not a lot of changes you're going to see in this, but in many of our other SuperShelf sites, we have signs and a lot of colorful displays that we bring in, and that's where things just get a little bit of a makeover facelift and start to look really pretty. And then all along the way, the last two steps are really about asking clients what they want to make sure that you're carrying foods that are both culturally appropriate and foods that they want to take from your food shelf. And then also sustain, so looking at short-term and long-term sustainability of the project and making sure it's going to continue going forward. All right, so another component of this is that you are developing healthy food guidelines, right? Yes. So that's kind of step 2 of the SuperShelf project that ICA is taking on, is that there's going to be a set of guidelines coming out that's really going to help you as staff and as volunteer, as people involved with this food shelf, to be able to know what foods are going to be on the shelf and have something to stand behind, because it'll be documented on a guideline or a policy, quote unquote, that you'll be able to follow and clients will be able to see, which is really just an affirmative statement out there into the world saying the kind of the standards and the values that you hold in terms of the food that you're offering to clients. And so then why, you may ask, is sourcing and distributing healthy foods so important? Well, the cost of eating processed foods has decreased by 40% since 1980, while the cost of eating fresh produce has increased by 40%. So knowing this, it's important that the foods being provided by the food shelf are as nutrient dense as possible, because these are the foods clients most often they cannot afford. So just like I was talking about before, this really kind of drives it home. All right, so why SuperShelf? Anything more to add? Okay. So this slide is really talking about what you are going to notice as we start to move through the transformation. So the transformation is set for September 11th and 12th, yes. And when I was talking about the first couple steps of supply and stretching, ICA has that covered. You aren't going to see much of that at all. You're not going to feel an impact of that much at all. But where you are going to start to notice a change is when we do the physical transformation on the 11th and the 12th. What you're going to notice is that we are going to revamp the layout of the food shelf, so how the shelves are arranged and how the food is arranged on the shelves. And we'll use behavioral economics, which Nathan is going to go into. And you're also going to see that there's going to be new ways that foods are stocked, which might be a little confusing at first. I want to just put that out there, that when new ways are being done, it can get a little confusing at first because it's a new way to do it, right? But I guarantee you it will make sense. And I encourage you to stick with it and learn the new system. It'll be a little bit of a new system to learn, so a little learning curve. But once you get it, it's going to make a lot of sense, and it will be all laid out on the shopping menu. So.
And really quick, when you do start to feel stressed out and you get into those positions, remember it's because Nathan and Nora said so, and not because Natalie and Kate said so. Not their fault. Blame it on us.
All our
so
fault.
that makes it easier to move through that.
Yeah, exactly.
Cell number 1 and 2.
Can you give us an example of what do you mean by new ways foods are stocked?
Yeah.
I will give you loads of examples in a couple minutes. Yep,
Okay.
I'll get really far into a lot of that stuff.
Yep. And then the final step is signage, but you guys really, there's not a lot of signage you're going to add. You are.
We actually are.
Oh, you
We
are?
are.
Okay. Well
Yeah.
then, more on that
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
All right,
We have
exciting.
really neat, bright, beautiful signs.
Wow, I didn't know you could get brighter, beautiful. Great.
Are you going to talk more about that shopping list too?
Yeah.
We're going to get into
Oh,
that.
there it is.
Okay.
So this is not the actual shopping list, but I put this ICA logo on top as if it were, but it's not going to look quite like this, but it's going to be similar. Definitely the same look and feel to it. This is front, that's back. So this is what a shopping list is going to look like, and it's basically a half sheet of paper. And what it allows, clients will be able to walk through the food shelf and shop from this. And it is organized in fruits and into the food categories. So, and it's the same layout as the food shelf. So fruits and vegetables come first. It's the first thing on the list. It's the first thing that they're shopping from. So they're going to walk through the list as they shop. And it will have your foods listed on it with a quantity number. So this is the quantity number that they can take. But don't get too attached to the numbers because this isn't really your shopping list. Did I see a hand? No? Okay. So it's very, very similar to a numbered system on the shelf. It's just the numbers aren't on the shelf, the numbers are on the list. That's really the only difference. So it'll, yes, so instead of dots that represent a number, it will be the number on the shelf.
So it's not size of family related at all?
No, so it will be size of family related.
That's what's not
yeah.
on here.
What you can't see because it's on the ceiling is that it says family of 1 to 3.
Yeah.
And so they are very much family related.
Yeah.
A lot of this is coming in with the dignity piece, right? So with the dot system, there's, you know, it's dignified, but when we move to this system, we find a little bit more dignity because this feels like the shopping list that we take to the grocery store with us, right? Which is why it's designed as a half sheet of paper. We stole this from a couple of fantastic little old church ladies in Apple Valley that we worked with. We didn't steal it. They very much so gladly told us, yes, we could use their half sheet idea. But so it feels a little bit more like the shopping list we use at home. And then the client knows their family size. They know what they should be taking, because they're the only ones that should be worried about what's going on in their cart, right? Like, we're the only ones that should be worried about what's going on in our carts when we're doing our shopping. So that helps that a little bit more.
What about our families that have speak a different language or who don't read at all in any language?
So we have multiple languages that we translate into, as many as possible. And if there are literacy barriers, then those are places that we work with clients, and we encourage the food shelf to find the most dignified operating manner for those clients as possible. So that may be somebody still shopping with them, but There are very different ways around all of those. There's no one set, like, it has to happen this way, but it has to happen this way. But there are other ways around that within it. And literacy actually isn't an issue that we've come up against in any one of the other 8 food shelves so far. So, and we work in some really vast and diverse areas.
Will we still
questions.
have the bread in the morning? Brian, because I see we have breads
Yes.
unnumbered.
Yes, we will still have the bread and
Yep.
wine area.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just kind of a touch of what you will be seeing soon. And yeah, like I said, it's divided by family size. It will be translated into the languages that apply to your clients. And it's had a really great response in the food shelves that have adopted this method. Everybody has been really happy, and clients have been really vocal about saying that they really appreciate this method.
You have questions?
Just a quick question on that listing. I assume that would be adapted every day or every week depending on the donations that have been received from the food shop?
Yeah, good. Sorry.
The number will change. The numbers will change, I assume, as those are printed off.
So a lot of that is built into how the shopping menu, how it exists in its form. So you'll notice that most of the things aren't specifically labeled, or will not be. So this is just an example. It'll get changed 1,000% for you guys because we do everything custom.
Yeah.
But in certain areas like fresh fruits and vegetables, we say take what you can use, right? So then that's not an expectation of you can only have 3 of this, you can only have 2 of this. And then there are other ones where we do adjust, right? So you might have to put a sign out one day that says, due to limited quantities, we're limiting each family to this many of this. So there are little things that come in to kind of help even out inventory.
Yeah. And
You would address that.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ellie and I have looked at the shopping list as well and know the fluctuations for rescue. And so where it says see shelf on there, sometimes it's gonna, I think sign is the word that we put. And so as we need to put quantities, it's to look at the sign. But then like a lot of our non-perishables and some other items, we can have a standard number. So it's kind of like if you think of where the beans are in the shelf, or the canned beans, or the canned fruit, there's a pretty standard number that doesn't change often. So that's what's gonna go on here, and that will stay the same. And then sign is where when we get rescue and that number fluctuates, we're able to put a different sign on the cooler as that fluctuates. And then as Ellie gets a ton of canned fruit, because she wasn't planning on it, and we're gonna change those, we can reprint the shopping list. These are gonna stay at ICA. We can always reprint more and up those quantities, but this will stay generally the same.
Is our fruit and vegetable mostly coming in as rescue, or is it also purchased?
It depends on the season, it depends on the day, but,
So are you gonna keep purchasing enough that it can go out as all you can use?
it's not always gonna be take what you can
Yeah,
use.
this
We have
is-
baskets still,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So each family, when they arrive, will get a shopping list
Mhm.
that will be related to their family
Yep.
status?
Mhm.
Yep. All right, so the next couple slides are talking a little bit more in depth about each of those steps that I just laid out, but I talked a lot about them already. So let me just see if there's anything really specific on here. Can you elaborate on this one?
So supply, that's just checking, that's for the ordering side, so Ellie and Natalie and Peg would take care of that side of things. So that's
Okay.
just from the supply side of things, making sure that they're supplying to meet stocking standards.
Got it. All right. Stretch, we talked about, really is about creating abundance on your shelf. So fruits and vegetables and all the other canned goods and packaged items be looking really bountiful and plentiful, because we all know when there's one left at the grocery store, being good Minnesotans that we are, we don't want to take it. So we like to create an abundant display, appeal, and it makes it look really appealing so that the displays also look very full and fresh and inviting to clients. And of course, as I talked about before, providing all the choices that there's always been on your shelf, so not taking away any of those choices, just providing the same choices that they have always had. Shifting really is about emphasizing fruits and vegetables, so that's what you're going to see is fruits and vegetables will come first in your transformed ICA 2.0. And showcase, we're going to get some new signs, and with that, this is really where nudging comes in, or behavioral economics. So I'm going to let Nathan take it away from here.
And then
Thank
I just
you.
need Peg to pull up the other presentations.
Presentation, not the,
The PowerPoint first.
Nora, can I
Or actually,
sorry.
Yep. I'm gonna get this by the end, and then I'm gonna go back to work tomorrow, and then be like, wait, how do I use my? Where is my?
Oh, it's way up above.
There we go. So man, I'm a master student. I do this all the time. Throw ourselves some loops. Okay, so my name is Nathan. I am the lead consultant with SuperShelf. I am also a SNAP educator. Do we all know what SNAP is? Okay, so SNAP. So a part of the SNAP grant is that there are also educators that go along with that. So the majority of the SNAP benefit grant pays for food benefits for our neighbors to have SNAP benefits, EBT dollars to spend at the grocery store. Another part of that grant pays for educators to be doled out as the states who are in charge of their grants see fit. So the University of Minnesota Extension holds our SNAP Ed grant in the state of Minnesota, or most of it. We now have 9 operating partners of SNAP Ed in Minnesota. 7 of them are tribal, and then Extension is the main partner. 7 are tribal. There's 8. Sorry, I can't count today. So anyway, so that's what brings me here. And how I got roped into this was my office is in Stillwater, which is where Valley Outreach Food Shelf is, where this all kind of got kicked off. I walked into their food shelf when I started my job, and I said, hey, could you tell me how a food shelf works? And they said, sure, if you come and volunteer for us. And they didn't think I would. So I said, okay, how do I do that? So I showed up the next Friday, and I started volunteering at Valley Outreach so that I could learn how food shelves operate. Which led them to going, hey, we were going to make this toolkit, but if we had a toolkit to help food shelves become healthier to a food shelf that's busy, what do you think is going to happen to it? Somebody's going to set it on a shelf someplace, and it's never going to get opened because it's way too much work for a food shelf to take all of this in while being busy, trying to keep food on their shelves, trying to keep all of their volunteers doing all of their volunteer things. So what if we had a person that knew how to do all of this stuff, that could go in, that could help food shelf managers, that could help the volunteers understand? Do you think, since you've learned how a food shelf operates, that you'd like to do that? And I said, yes, I'd love to. And so here we are, a couple of years later, and now we're moving on to much bigger and much better things. Okay, so introduction slide number 2 that we're going to skip. A couple of objectives today. Our objectives are going to be to learn how good nutrition leads to health using MyPlate. We're going to examine a couple of ways to nudge clients. I hate the idea of nudging, but it's a really great term, right? Because we just want to give them that little gentle push in a certain direction without them knowing about it, because that's one of the biggest parts of a nudge, is that we don't know it's happening. And we're also going to identify how food shelves can make low-cost or no-cost changes that make healthy foods more desirable. So this part is really going to be just exploring a lot of the ideas of behavioral economics that we use in grocery stores and other retail locations, and also how we utilize them in food shelves. Just to kind of get everybody in that headspace of starting to think differently about how we distribute foods in food shelves. I also talk really quickly, so if at any time I need to slow down, please just let me know. I won't take offense. Okay, so I'm not going to, again, have everybody do this because we would be here for the next 6 months. So this is share. We want to name a food at your food shelf that everyone likes. So one food that food shelf that everybody likes. I'm going to go with What's that?
Onions.
Onions, milk, snacks, oil. Oil's always a good one. Super popular, sugar. One food that no one chooses.
Parsnips.
Parsnips. Yeah. Rutabagas. Canned pumpkin. Cranberries.
Pumpkin spice coffee.
Pumpkin spice coffee. Ooh, and we're almost right back into that season where we're going to have something out of our ears. I was going to say, I was in another food shelf the other day that still has the same last year. It's terrible, right? So really what we want to do in this is we want to start helping figure out how we can move those foods that aren't moving right now, right? So canned pumpkin is my favorite one because we're coming up on canned pumpkin season too, right? So Valley Outreach, when Valley Outreach started this, they had canned pumpkin coming out of their ears. And Valley Outreach is a fairly large food shelf, kind of on the same par as you guys. So they had all of this canned pumpkin and they were like, what do we do with it? How do we create more choice so that people take that, right? Because when we are in a scarcity mentality, and that's what our clients, our neighbors are coming to us when they come to visit the food shelf, we're often in a scarcity mentality mindset. And when we're in that scarcity mindset, we are going to take and we are going to do, right? And we're going to meet our needs the easiest ways possible or the fastest ways possible, right? We're going to get to that. We're going to stop that scarcity mindset from happening. So how do we do that? So canned pumpkin normally just gets thrown in with the vegetables, right? Or sometimes in the baking section. But if it's pure canned pumpkin, from now on, it's a vegetable in your food shelf. Unless it's pie filling, then it's a vegetable, right? So if it's 100% pure pumpkin, it's now a vegetable. I'll say it a couple more times. So how do we get people to take that pumpkin though? How do we keep it from just sitting on our shelf? Well, one way, what's that? Recipes, yes, absolutely, and that's a great nudge. Recipes are a fantastic nudge. Another one is, on your shopping menu, we do something crazy like, you get, for a family of 3 to 4, you get 6 cans of vegetables. And for a family of 3 to 4, you also can have 2 cans of pumpkin. Because now, I can take all of those 6 cans of vegetables that I know my family's gonna eat, right? But I can also take one of those cans of pumpkin without worrying about not being able to give my family something I know they'll like, so I can experiment with it, right? So now all of a sudden we've changed things up.
I just feel compelled to say that we actually do use the canned pumpkin.
Yeah.
We have an annual Thanksgiving turkey program.
Perfect.
So we can give it away.
It's good. No, I mean, it's, you know, that's just my favorite example.
I know,
There's a lot of
I
food
just
shelves
couldn't
that
hold it
sits.
in anymore.
Perfect. I encourage that. If we hold it in, we might explode. That's messy. Those are just a couple of things. And actually, Peg, I'm going to have you do this because I need the video now, if you would.
Yes.
So now, when Peg gets this up here, we're going to look at a little video that happened a couple of years ago in a train station. This is the piano staircase, and this is one of my absolute favorite nudges. So we want more people to take the stairs.
Well, there's a note.
So, if you notice, beautiful. Perfect, thank you. If we notice, we had in that we didn't have anybody taking the stairs, right? Or we had 66% more people taking the stairs that day versus the escalator, and all they had to do was make it fun, right? So we just did one small thing and we made this huge health behavior change overnight. So nudges are everywhere. One of my favorites is this one right here. Who knows this one? Who knows this one when it flashes when you're going over the speed limit? What do? You slow down, exactly. This is a nudge. There's one not too far from my office, right out in front of the prison. And every morning on my way into work, it flashes at me. I know it's coming, but it causes me to slow down because all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, whoops, I wasn't even paying attention that I was going 45 miles an hour in front of the state prison. I should probably slow down lest I want to end up there. So that's a really good one. One of my other favorite ones is, this is a gum target. In a lot of the EU, they have issues with folks putting their gum, just like taking their gum and throwing it on the sidewalk. They spend in some cities $4 million a year in London to clean up gum off of city streets, right? So they started putting these up. And in one area of London, they collected over 40,000 pieces of gum, right? So this one said, stick your gum here. Which band is Gwyneth Paltrow's husband the front man of? And it gave, they're divorced now. But so you could vote, right? And there were other ones that were connect the dot with gum. It was Coldplay. So there were Mona Lisa with your gum, right? So you stick your blue gum on the blue dot and they would make the Mona Lisa out of people's gum, right? But it's a little stupid thing, but it got people to stop throwing their gum on the ground. Up here too, these recycling bins, we use these we use this one at the U a lot and in my county office building as well. So they're made easy, right? They tell us right on them what you can recycle in them. So it makes it really easy to go, oh, well, I have this. I'm going to put it in there because it's right here, right? So that's a nudge to recycle instead of throwing something in the garbage. This one was an experiment done by a social researcher who took a regular grocery store cart and put a line in the middle of the cart that said produce here. And then put those grocery store carts out in the grocery store and watched what happened. And what do you think happened?
More produce.
People took more produce, absolutely, because all of a sudden there was a social norm that we were supposed to put our produce in this part of the cart. And we're social creatures. When we see each other doing things, we tend to start adopting similar behavior. So people started seeing other people walking around the grocery store doing this, and they started filling regular carts without the produce sign with produce up to that point, right? So that grocery store saw a ton of produce starting to push out of their store that day. So it's little things, right? You don't know that's happening. You don't know that somebody's trying to do an experiment on you with this. You don't know that somebody's trying to get you to not throw your gum on the floor with this one. All you know is that you're going to stick your gum on the answer that you think is correct, right? So there, our nudge gets you to do what we want you to do without you knowing that we've influenced your behavior at all. So those are everywhere. Can you guys, I want a couple, can anybody think of a nudge they see in their everyday life?
Not every day, but it's my favorite thing. At a party, to put 2 bowls of salsa, put one single dip and the other one double dip. And see how many people actually stay away from the double dip.
Probably be really full. That's a good one. Does anybody else have a nudge they can think of that you see out and about? I've got a really fun one that I noticed. And I notice a lot of these things, especially when I'm shopping. So I was grocery shopping one day, and we went to get milk. I pulled the milk out of the cooler. And on the side of it, there was a sticker. Picture of an Oreo. And I was like, And it said milk's favorite cookie. And I was like, shut up, Oreo. And I take my milk and I turn around and I go to set it in my cart. And what do you think is in front of me? Oreos. Right? So now, because that picture of Oreos was there, I'm already thinking about Oreos as I'm turning around to set my milk down. And now they're right there. Instant gratification. I don't have to think again.
Another nudge is the fact that they put the milk in the back of the store, so
Absolutely.
you have to write.
We're going to talk about that. Yes, that's
And
my
then there-
favorite one.
There was also a nudge with Target, that if you had a prescription to fill there,
Yep.
that you drop off your prescription and you'll buy more in your buggy than if you don't have a prescription there.
Yep.
So the goal was to keep you waiting a little bit longer while your prescription is.
Exactly,
being
yep.
filled to buy
So that's why they give you a buzzer,
Yes.
and they say, okay, your buzzer will go off when your prescription's ready, right? So then what do you do with your buzzer? Take it and walk around Target for 20 minutes, because what else are you gonna do, right? You're gonna sit around and wait. And while you're there, all of their fantastic displays that have been set up using behavioral economics to separate you from your money get you, right? So that's what they do. So that's why they're successful. Absolutely, that's a good one. So in our food shelves, we have the ability to, as volunteers and as staff, we have the ability to encourage our clients to make the healthy choice the easiest choice. And that's a lot of what we're doing here. And one of my biggest caveats on this one is our nudges should always be positive. We never want to yuck somebody else's yum. And that's one I use with my kids, but it's one I use with my adults as well. I remind my family of this constantly. We should never judge somebody else's choices because we have no idea why they're making those choices. So that's one place we always want to start out our nudging from is, you might really, really love beans, and I might really, really hate them, but I'm going to be like, oh, I see you're taking some white beans today. I love to put those on my salad. Even if it's a flat out lie. They don't need to know that. Although I do really love putting cannellini beans on my salad. It's a great protein. So my plate guides a lot of our understanding of nutrition in SuperShelf. We're not looking at macronutrients. We're not saying you shouldn't eat this much sodium, you shouldn't do this. But rather we're thinking about nutrition from more of a my plate. And this is my life because I'm a Snap Ed educator. My plate replaced the food pyramid. We all knew how awful the food pyramid was, right? It didn't make any sense, so we got rid of it a couple of years ago. And now we have my plate, which makes way more sense, right? Because this tells us I want to make half my plate fruits and vegetables. And the reason I want to do that is because fruits and vegetables are full of fiber. And they're low in vitamin, or they're high in vitamins, they're low in calories. They're good for us, so they help fill us up and they help keep us full longer and give us our vitamins and nutrients. Grains, we want to focus on whole grains. We want to make at least half of our grains every day whole grains, which is why whole grains are a really big, important part of SuperShelf, and you'll see them in your face a lot more. And protein, right? Protein's important in our diets, and we want to focus on leaner proteins, which is something that we try and increase the availability of in our SuperShelves. And then dairy, obviously, we want to get our calcium is important. So there's your nutrition lesson. I can say I taught a nutrition lesson today. Let's see. Just some random questions. Do convenience foods come into your food shelf as donations? Yes, right? You have all kinds of them. Skillet dinners, ramen noodles. Do you buy certain convenience food at your food shelf consistently? No, I don't. You guys, I don't think do. This is not something that I've seen, right? A lot of our food shelves, I had one food shelf when I first started doing this. When we looked and we did a budget analysis, they were like, we're spending $5,000 a month on skillet dinners.
Wow.
Right? And skillet dinners are the knockoff brand of Hamburger Helper. They were like, why? Right? They had just changed over. Somebody new was doing their ordering. I was there helping them with SuperShelf. This food shelf did SuperShelf similar to the way ICA is doing SuperShelf. And so we were like, well, why? Why indeed? We went back to their storeroom and found like 13 cases of skillet dinner. And they get a ton in as donations as well, right? So we immediately, they stopped ordering it. They still are working, over a year later, they're still working through some of that back stock. Because we diminish the presence of it in the food shelf, so it no longer becomes an important choice. And people stop choosing it because they feel good about the other things that they're choosing, so they don't take it anymore. And so what ways can we encourage and nudge our clients or our neighbors to increase the nutritional value of package of instant noodles? So if we are taking instant noodles, right, we can encourage and nudge when we see, oh, you're taking these frozen vegetables, those would be a really great addition to your ramen noodles. And I like to use half the sodium packet because I know it's better for my heart. Right? So those are positive nudges where we're not saying anything negative about what our clients are taking, we're not passing any judgments, we're simply giving them ways they can better utilize some of those things. Let's see. So, support your clients in making healthy choices. That's kind of what that's all about, right? I didn't write these slides, so you'll have to forgive me on a couple of these. Food shelves can influence choice without sacrificing freedom of choice. So this is really in how we set up our food shelves, right? So our skillet dinners are still available as a choice, but we're going to put them further back in our food shelf because we know, right, like Nora said already, we select 51% more of the first things that we encounter. So we want to put things like fruits and vegetables first so that when we see that, we go, oh, I want more of this, I'm going to take it, and by the time we get to the end, which is where our skillet dinners will be hopefully on a bottom shelf, we're going to be like, oh, I've got all this other great food, I've got all of these other things that I can essentially make this with, and that I know are healthier for me. I don't want that, I don't need to take it. Maybe I'll take one in case I've got a really busy night this week and I need a quick dinner, right? Because we've all got those nights. We all have nights where it's like, nope, I don't care, I need to put something up fast so that I can feed my family or feed myself and get on to the next activity. So it's still important to have those choices, but we're going to increase them. So what drives our decision making? Why do we make the decisions we make? And this is a big one. So this starts to get into our decision making. So our automatic, intuitive decision making system is influenced by common expectations and certain cues, such as presentation, right? Which is why we change the presentation of our food shelf and how we distribute to start changing the way we think about food. So this example, this is our default, right? Everybody, burger and fries. It's an American tradition. But what if it wasn't the default? What if instead on that menu board you saw a picture of that burger next to a salad and it didn't cost any extra to get that salad as a side? Would you be more likely if somebody said, would you like a salad with that? To go, yeah, instead of fries? I would. I actually went to a restaurant while I was in California about 1.5 years ago, where that was the default. Would you like a side salad with that? Yep, sure would. Fries were $1 extra. It was great, right? But it's changing that expectation, right? We only automatically go with those fries because that's just the way it's built in. So a lot of these other choices are just choices that we've learned to make and they become automatic. And we don't even think about them anymore. So by changing things, by tipping the store on its head and moving things around, we're suddenly changing the way our clients are shopping. Has anybody noticed recently that your Target has gone all wonky? Yeah. Why do you think they're doing that?
Make you go find some more, make you go through the stuff and buy some more.
Yeah, exactly. They want you to spend more time in their store. So they're going to move everything around so you no longer know where everything is, and you have to spend more time in the store looking for what you went there for. And in that process, you're going to pass an end cap of throw pillows that have your favorite character on them. I'm guilty of this, right? I'm terrible. Your Millennium Falcon shirt's getting me right now. I have the same one because I was walking through a Target and I was like, oh, Star Wars, right? It got to that primal base, automatic, like, I love this. Purchasing, right? And they got my money. So that's how they do it. That's one big behavioral economics, is we move things around, we get people to start taking a different look at what they're choosing because they have to look for it now. So we're taking advantage of that and saying, okay, we're going to change everything up, but instead of getting you to spend more money, we're going to get you to take healthier food. So a little dubious sometimes, yes, but with the best intentions at heart. So that's that. Default practice at your food shelf. Is there a default practice at ICA?
That one right there.
This one right here. So this is our favorite. This is a SuperShelf Superstar. So at Valley Outreach, when they first started this, when Marna and Liz first started walking through Valley Outreach, they the first thing you got when you walked into Valley Outreach, pre-SuperShelf transformation, was a box of syrup and a box of pancake mix, regardless, right? Why? What happens when we make that choice? So our Marna, our lead dietitian and lead superhero for SuperShelf, was helping one of her friends going through some things, and she was helping her clean out her kitchen. And this friend was going through chemo and had been using the food shelf, right? No judgment, because we don't judge our neighbors and our friends for needing things or for asking for help when they need it. But she had 12 bottles of syrup. I don't know if it was actually 12, but it was a large quantity of syrup in her cupboard. And so this prompted Marna to go, why? She was like, well, when I go to the food shelf, they give it to me. I don't have a lot. I don't know what I might have, right? So I'm gonna take it. Even though I'm not using it, I've got a cupboard full of syrup. Where do you think that syrup went? Right back to the food shelf. Right? Marta put it in a box and took it right back to Valley as a donation. So that's why we're starting to ask some of these questions, right? Why do we give out these things automatically? Why are we assuming that this is what our clients want? And that's one big thing that our statewide survey has really helped us understand, is what our clients actually want, what our neighbors are actually asking for when they show up to our food shelves. So, nudging. Nudging includes positive reinforcement and indirect suggestions to encourage better choices. Nudging does not include direct instruction, legislation, or enforcement. We are not the food police, right? Not the food police. So somebody's taking some things that aren't the best. Whatever, it's their choice, right? We still give them that choice. Hopefully over time, some of our behavioral economics start to get in and they start to work their way in for those folks and they start to be able to make those healthier choices. But why are they making these choices, right? So that's some place that we have to start working if we change the way we think about it. Instead of going, oh, that person's selecting horrible things, thinking to ourselves, maybe that person, why is that person choosing those things? Why is that person picking 6 boxes of hamburger helper today and not a pound and a half of cabbage, right?
It's funny because I think it happens to us when we go to the store.
Absolutely.
You get in,
oh,
you
yeah.
start putting, like sometimes I'll run in because I need things for a recipe. Not really great healthy choices, and I'm wondering, why did the person behind us think that I don't
know that happens.
vegetables?
As a health and nutrition educator and as someone who struggles with weight, I am absolutely at the grocery store judging what you put in your basket. But I'm also judging what I'm putting in my basket, right? So, like, I pay attention to those things. I also pay attention to those things too, though, because I want to see how the behavioral economics of the grocery store or a retail environment are affecting the people who are shopping in those environments. But yeah, we all do. We all look at each other, you know, and like, we look at, I hear this in a lot of food shelves, and it's not a bad thing, but we hear like, oh, well, those clients, you know, like, they take all this stuff, you know, and so we have those little preconceived notions in our heads, and those are the little things that we want to start changing how we think about why are those clients making those choices, right? Now, we don't want to walk up to them and start berating them and asking those questions because it's really personal and a lot, right? But as we start to change things and change the way we're distributing food and change the way we show up in the food shelf, the more our neighbors start to go, oh, this place, there's a level of dignity here. This is some place that I'm comfortable and welcomed and wanted, right?
But
now,
I hear that a lot from clients.
Oh yeah, and in your space, like ICA is beautiful. The second I walked in there, I was like, ooh, I want to shop here. You know, if it was a grocery store, I would. All day, every day, I'd drive there special. And that helps, right? Then we really start to see changes in people's behavior. We start to see them opening up a bit more. We start to see them maybe resurfacing a little of their own hope. And so we kind of start to build that momentum, and we can do it by simply changing where the produce is in the food shelf. Can be a good building for that. So nudges are not mandates, and nudges are everywhere. So putting fruit at eye level is a nudge. Banning junk food is not a nudge, right? We talk about healthy food guidelines, but healthy food guidelines give us, an internal policy to work from, right? An internal policy of ordering that says, I'm not going to order these things because I'm here to support the health of my clients. But it's not saying, absolutely not, we're not going to ever accept another bag of Skittles ever again, right? That's not a nudge. But definitely putting fruit at eye level is a nudge, right? Eye level is a huge nudge. And let's get into some more. So food product placement. Nothing in your grocery store is by accident. Everything is by design. Paco Underhill, who is the founder and CEO of Envirocell, which is a retail-focused research and consulting firm in New York, has done a lot of this work, and he wrote the book in 2000, Why We Buy, The Science of Shopping, which is where a lot of this idea of nudging comes from. So what he did was start to look at grocery stores and how they were set up. We will always notice in grocery stores there are attractive displays that greet you, maybe something from the floral shop. The produce department is near the entrance in every single grocery store, right? The bakery on the perimeter somewhere along a wall that you'll have to confront as you wheel your cart around the store, right? You always have to walk by the bakery. You have to. There's no way to go around it without seeing it or walking right through the middle of it. And our friend dairy is always in the very back of the store. And why is dairy in the very back of the store?
Because you have to go get the gallon of milk along and pick up the 15 other items.
Absolutely. So dairy has the highest conversion rate of anything in the grocery store because you don't go to the grocery store to visit the milk and see how much it costs, right? You go to the grocery store to buy a gallon of milk. And so they put it all the way in the back because then what do you have to walk past? You have to walk past the number 10 tins of pickles, the beautiful display of Doritos that you didn't know you needed until you saw them. You know, and so they pull you through all of these things, and so you have time to walk past them and think about them. It starts to get in there, that little earworm, and you're like, oh,
There's some more
Doritos.
display with the graham crackers, marshmallows, and Hershey bars.
Yeah, all three, all right there. You don't need to think twice about it. It's a good one. I always really like that one. The product placement to make a sale. And we know too that grocery lists make a big difference in this too, right? So if we're not planning for groceries, we spend 60% more than we would if we had a plan going into the store. So they're good and they work, right? All of these behavioral economics fun things work. If you notice, like produce, when you walk into the grocery store, next time you walk into Cub, I want you to look up when you walk into the produce department and take a look at the rigging for their lighting. It's all theatrical rigging. If you look at it, there's spotlights on the apples so that they shine really bright. That produce is gonna look 1,000 times better at that grocery store than it ever will at your house. Have you ever noticed that? I got some peaches home the other day and it was like, oh, these are really pretty at the grocery store. Right? It's because of all that lighting. They did such a great job. My house just isn't that bright, so it didn't look as pretty. So they get us. So nudging at the food shelf. And this is one of our food shelves that's now been transformed. This is up in Meeker County. This is in Litchfield. And this was their fruit display before. Right? It's nice. They were starting to use baskets. They were also using kind of a similar method to the dot method that you guys currently use. But it was pretty. And they were trying, right? They were starting. They were like, okay, we've got some ideas on how we want to do this and how we can make this better. So our first nudge is product placement. So we want to place healthier options at the beginning, right? And so this is ACBC Food Shelf in Anoka. This is after post-transformation. This is one of our super shelves. Because I like to plug them wherever possible. I actually deleted the pictures out of this slide and put as many super shelves in as I could. So this is when you this is the first thing you see when you walk into their food shelf now. You used to walk into a shelf. And it was white and boring and all the aisles were really close together. Now it's huge and wide open and yellow and lots of color. And you walk into fruits and vegetables because we know that if you walk into fruits and vegetables, you're going to take more of those things, right? Nora and I got made fun of because we made this display really, really, really pretty this day because we were going to be doing filming in their food shelf. And the volunteers were making fun of us for making it look so pretty. But would you want to shop there? Yeah, right? There's a lot. There's abundance. There are all kinds of things to choose from, right? So pretty, it makes a difference. You might have to restock a little bit more often. You might have to shift every once in a while here and there, but it makes a huge difference how our clients show up in our space and how they feel when they're showing up in that space. At the top, this says product placement again. Or no, it doesn't. I'm a slide behind myself. This one says goes well with. So, our graham crackers with chocolate bars with marshmallows on an end cap all together, right? S'mores. Oh, I didn't even know I wanted a s'more until I saw it. In our food shelves, we can do similar things, right? So we, in some of our food shelves, we have side displays that'll have a group of things together that make part of a really fantastic meal, right? Or we can put together a special end cap, right? Or a display. Maybe we've got a ton of pork and beans right now, and so we're going to set those in a display with a couple of other things to make a healthier meal with them. So that's another nudge that we can use, or that they use in grocery stores as well. Eye-catching placement. Place healthy choices at eye level, right? So at the grocery store, they don't place healthy choices at eye level. What do they place at eye level? the expensive things, right? So if you go to my favorite aisle for this, it's easiest to see, is the cereal aisle. If you're 6.5 feet tall, what you're going to see in the cereal aisle is the healthy stuff. But for most people, what do you see in the cereal aisle for adults? We see the sugary, the Captain Crunch, right? The eye level stuff is the more expensive adult cereal that they want us to buy. Yeah, right? The kids stuff is on the very bottom shelf. And why is that? Because that's where they can reach it, because that's where their eyes are, right? Their eyes are down at the bottom. So when you're shopping, like for the longest time when I was an adult, and I didn't grow up with sugary cereals, so when I was an adult, I was like, where do they keep all those sugary cereals, right? Because I'm not looking down there. I'm looking up here. But I see it when I'm at the grocery store. I see kids trucking along. Mom! Right? Every time. And they get us. So eye placement, or putting things at eye level. So in our SuperShelf, so this example, kind of hard to see from where you guys are, this is grains or pasta. So we like to put pasta in the grain section in SuperShelves. This is not one of ours. But on this one, at eye level, we have whole wheat pastas, right? And what do you think is below those whole wheat pastas?
The white pasta.
The white pasta is the refined grain pasta, right? Because we want to put the healthier choice up higher in people's faces where they can see it. And the less healthy choices, which is still a choice, it's still there, but it's a little bit more out of sight, out of mind. And it works, right? When we start putting things at that eye level.
Is there a situation where you decrease the availability of some of those bad choices?
Yeah, absolutely. So skillet dinners. I like to put those on a bottom shelf, one row.
Okay.
That's it.
Would you eliminate any of
No,
those?
absolutely not. I would not eliminate them, and especially in a food shelf, that's hard because we get donations, right? And we never want to say, no, we're not going to put this donation out on our shelves.
Because I think of all the donuts and things.
Yeah.
You get mass quantities
Yep.
of those.
So
And
when
people are happy when they buy it.
yeah, they like to see it. And some of that, though, is the scarcity mindset, right? Because it's like, oh, food, I know what that is, and I know my family will eat it, so I'm going to take it.
Okay.
When we start to shift that, people start taking less of it. So in Burnsville, what I got them to do, Burnsville was one of my very first like flying solo, I'm going to do this SuperShelf with these people. We got to the very end of their shopping experience, and they were like, well, we still have these donuts and stuff. Where do we put them? And they had massive carts of them. And I said, well, you've only got this one space on the very last shelf on the very, very bottom. It was the last things that guest selected. And they were like, no, we can't do that. They deserve a treat. Absolutely. Everyone deserves a treat. But those donuts, all of those baked goods, those are readily accessible, right? Those are fairly inexpensive. We can get those kinds of treats for ourselves. What we want to be able to do is supplement the things that are harder to reach. So we put those things that are really big, plentiful, and easy to access in places where they're less thought about. As soon as they did that, they started seeing a dramatic decrease in people selecting those, and they heard absolutely no one complain and go, where are the donuts? Where are those green cupcakes? Right? Because those are my biggest pet peeve in the world, are those bright green cupcakes with googly eyes on them. Mostly that's just because artificial food coloring terrify me. But right, so nobody really noticed. They didn't notice it was gone because they were so happy with all of the other things that they already had. And that's where behavioral economics comes into play. Here again, we've got abundance. So this is a food shelf up in Duluth. They're really trying. I think this is on a bonus produce day, right? But it's abundant. There's a ton of it. You look at this and you say, yep, I can definitely select something from that. I'm going to find something in there that I will eat and that my family will eat and that I will enjoy. It feels good to shop in that space. Feature a recipe, right? We talked about this one as well. Featuring a recipe next to some of the harder to use products really helps kind of push them out the door, right? Or if somebody says, what do I do with this squash? I'm going with squash because this is crock-pot squash soup. And you have an idea for squash. You can be like, oh, I really love to do this with squash, right? And then maybe that's something that you can point them in a direction where they might be able to find a resource for that. Here again, some more recipes. Right underneath the lentils, there's a recipe for lentils. Make it easy. Offer a bargain. And so this is what I was talking about, offer a bargain, when I was talking about the adding in, you get the can of pumpkin and you get those vegetables that you're gonna like, right? Because then it's a bargain. I can have that and it's not gonna cost me anything, I'm not gonna lose out on a choice, and I'm still gonna feel good about what I've got at the end of the day. Use attractive signs. I personally don't think this is a super attractive sign. I got this PowerPoint yesterday. Didn't have a ton of time to go through and change all the pictures.
I got nervous for a minute there. I thought that was good, okay.
So all of our signage in SuperShelf has been designed for us by our partners at HealthPartners. So we have very attractive, very pretty signage, and what they haven't designed, we have Nora on our team who makes some of the most amazing and beautiful things ever. So we have much prettier signs than that.
Is that one? That's not one of those.
That's not one of our signs at all, no. So if we were to put up a sign like that that said oatmeal, it would probably be on a yellow background because yellow is the color of grains generally, or that's generally where we tend to go with that. So it would just be a yellow sign that just really simply said grains on it in a fantastic non-Comic Sans font.
I have a comment about that
Yeah.
from a stocking perspective, because we have had signs both in the back
Yep.
from where we stock as well as out front that make stocking harder because they're too big or they get in the way of
Yep.
things we're trying. And
Yeah.
the volume of stuff we're rolling through there,
Absolutely.
that is a significant concern.
Yeah,
So I
no,
just raised that as
absolutely.
a-
We, so that's something that we try to think about continuously in SuperShelf is the last thing in the entire world we want to do is make your job even more difficult as a volunteer, right? We're already making it difficult because we're saying, hey, we're going to upend your entire food shelf and we're going to change where we put everything. And no, you can't put that there anymore, right? So the last thing we want to do is make stocking in that more difficult. What we've done in one of our food shelves is actually match our floor signage to the back room signage so that they looked the same. So it visually made it a lot easier that way. But they're always up and out of the way because the last thing we want to do is impede you or clients from being able to select what they want. So yes, thank you for that. That's an important one. Where are we? We're getting close, you guys. Meal kits, right? So these are fun too, kind of back to that like offering a suggestion. So similar to, we've got all of our s'mores stuff together. Sometimes we can have this. Doesn't generally pan out. It generally tends to be an end cap where we say these things go really well together because having a bunch of pre-made bags of these things work really well together is a lot of extra work for volunteers. But it's an idea. Create attractive displays. So this is not our best example of an attractive display. But this is someone trying with what they've got, right? So this food shelf doesn't have a ton of money. They didn't have, you know, like this was pre-SuperShelf, and food shelf's just trying to figure out what they were doing on their own. But they were trying to say, okay, we've got all of these sweet potatoes. Here's a little thing about sweet potatoes. They look nice. They're in a basket. They're not just all falling all over the shelf. We put a little thought into it, right? Because when we show that we're putting thought into what we're doing, our clients receive that in a completely different way. Again, here's a nice cooler that's stocked abundantly with fresh greens and some radishes. Personally, if I were to do that, I would have done a little bit more merchandising in that space. That's just me personally, and that's why I'm the lead consultant. Yeah. I need to, yes, that'll be one of my feedback comments is, hey, you guys, can I go through here and change all your pictures? We're testing this tonight for the team that created this PowerPoint. So what goes into a nudge? So we're just going to review. The main objective is to encourage clients to choose healthier foods, which you can do by explaining the nutritional benefits of foods and reassuring them that these foods can be used in delicious recipes, right? Oh, those great northern beans are really tasty and they're full of protein and they don't have a lot of calories. It's a positive nudge, right? Not you, why would you eat those? So there are positive and negative ways to nudge, and we want to stay away from the less positive ways. So a positive nudge. These beans are a good source of protein, they're high in fiber, low in fat, and they're heart healthy. Right? I use them in my favorite soups. The great nudge, Gesundheit. A negative nudge, I don't like beans, they're disgusting. But you can take up to 3 if you want. I'm not sure what you're gonna do with them, right? That's not the greatest. The first time I saw this, I laughed, right? Because it's funny, until I heard somebody actually say something similar to a client in a food shelf. I don't think that would happen at ICA because your guys' foundation is way higher than that. But we want to keep it positive. We want to keep it light with our clients. We want to make them feel good about the space that we're in together, because there is a power dynamic there. So the less healthy comment, right? And this too. You can take up to 3 cans of beans if you want. I like to put them in a chili cheese dip that I make. I also put beans on top of hot dogs and eat them with chips, right? That may be the truth, but again, let's sugarcoat it.
So does your new theory involve more interaction with clients?
We love when volunteers and staff interact with clients, right? And we found in every single SuperShelf that transforms, it just kind of automatically starts to happen. Because clients come in and you can automatically feel the dignity. You can feel that you're being welcomed into this space and that you've really been thought about. And when you feel that way, you're more apt to open up and start chatting with folks. So we do start to see a little bit more interaction. And in one of our food shelves that we just finished up in Litchfield, they actually have the volunteers that used to only work in the back of the house now are wanting to come out to the front of the house because it's more exciting out there and they get to interact with clients a little bit more and it's a fun place to be. So we've started to see a little shift in their volunteers there too. So let's practice. What do they want us to practice? Not nudging negatively, right? Let's see. So what is I'm going to grab 1 or 2. What is one thing in your food shelf that maybe might take some thinking for a positive nudge? Like, say hamburger helper.
Parsnips.
Parsnips. How could we positively nudge parsnips?
I ended up talking to one of the clients and I said, I really like them in stews. They're like a little bit spicier carrot. Why don't you try it? I mean, let me know what you think.
Yep.
She now buys them.
Yep, that's a great, yep. And I've actually used similar roasted parsnips.
Yes.
Are fantastic, right? So that's definitely a positive nudge. What if you do have somebody coming up and they've got a cart full of, or they've got a whole bunch of, they've got their entire selection they can take of skillet dinners. How could we positively nudge that selection of skillet dinners?
Well, you had some questions.
Did you have one?
How about taking some good vegetables for a salad to go with it?
Yeah, you could say, oh, I see you've got lots of skillet dinners, you know, and maybe they've already got some lettuce in their cart. You'd be like, oh, are you planning on pairing that with a really beautiful salad from these greens?
Well, and I think asking them, because, you know, I get recipes from them too. What do you normally do with a zucchini?
Yeah.
Or, oh, you know, and I have tried this recipe. Oh, that sounds good. Maybe I'll try that. You know, and I think having that conversation.
That's brilliant. Yes, absolutely. So that starts to build that rapport, right? And I do the same thing. I teach cooking classes, right? That's part of my job is teaching nutrition through cooking classes. And I'm constantly learning from my clients, from my students when I'm in class, because I'm not the only one that knows things, right? They know, you guys, they know, right? We all know, and we've all got something that we want to contribute. And so when we ask one another, when we ask our clients, oh, what are you going to do with that squash? I love squash. How do you prepare it?
Right.
We start to build that rapport, and we start to understand, like, oh, we're on the same playing field. It's no longer you're a volunteer and I'm a client. It's now we're here together, we're in this together, we're neighbors, right? So yes, absolutely. Those are great. In the interest of time, I don't want to keep us here until 12 o'clock at night. So the extension website, if you ever have any questions for Natalie, Peg, Ellie, any of you need any other resources, the extension, UMN extension website has all of our healthy food shelf things available on it, as well as a ton of recipes. So if you ever get anything into the food shelf and you're like, what do I do with this case of parsnips? You can go on our website and we've got recipes for parsnips. Or you can call me and I'll say, hey, let me pull up some parsnip recipes. I had one food shelf call me one day, and they were like, right after we had transformed, and so I had just convinced them to start taking a ton of extra rescue. And they called me and they were like, Nathan, we just got an entire pallet stacked as tall as one of our volunteers of nothing but sour cream. What do we do with it? So we found as many healthy recipes as we could that utilized sour cream as possible, and we moved through that pallet of sour cream.
Baked potatoes.
So we're going to skip most of these. Did we cover what you wanted to learn today?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
What about our emergency bags? Is there a way to make them more healthy?
That depends. Emergency bags, a lot of times, because it's in an emergency status, right? Like it's not necessarily thought through, we don't know what they might need. A lot of times they tend to be more shelf stable. So there could be other ways that you could do that depending on how the food shelf wants to do, and that would be something I would encourage you to talk to Natalie and Peg and Ellie about. But most of our food shelves still kind of operate with the same basic emergency bags as they always have, because it's the ability to say, here you are, is there anything else you need? Is usually the most dignified way we can do that then in that situation.
At least at K-Tel as well, we have the bread and more area that we're always putting extra produce and things like that. So clients always have access to fresh food that way as well.
That's good.
Is someone going to talk to us a little bit more about our personal interaction with the clients, how we're going to start, and then thank you.
Yeah, so Natalie is going to jump on that portion of
Maybe I
that.
should do that quick, and then
Yeah.
any other questions for Nathan, like at the end, we
Yep.
can do that as well.
Perfect.
Because some of your questions I might be covering.
Right.
So, is that good?
Does that work? Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. I'm not gonna pretend I'm as good as Nathan to bring it up. I can click, but I don't think I can find it. So, I promise I will keep this brief. I know that you've been sitting for a while, so just acknowledge that, and I appreciate that. David and Nora did an excellent job going through everything. So I think you can see why we're so excited about SuperShelf and just the resource that they have been able to provide to us. It's just very valuable to us. So thank you so much for all of your help. This first slide I stole from Nathan. He doesn't even know it.
Perfect.
So we're trying to make the healthiest choice the easiest choice. That just kind of sums up what we're trying to do. And of course, Nathan went into a lot of that with all of the nudging details and behavioral economics. Some specific things that you will notice at ICA, some of this has been covered, so I'll go quickly. Some of it will be more information for you. So we have had 26 shelving units donated to ICA. If you have been in the food shelf and you've seen the Kids Summer Market shelf at the very beginning, we've had 26 of those units donated to us, and we are going to be replacing the shelves. And there's a number of reasons for that. These ones look really nice. We're going to have a uniform look. We're going to have new signage with the categories, so grains, fruits and vegetables, proteins, the different categories that you've seen on the shopping list, which you will see more of. That's going to be on each 4-foot shelving unit, and so it's going to clearly mark the different categories that the clients are going to be using the shopping list to go around to. So they're also not as deep. Those of you, give me a thumbs up. It's hard to stock those 4 feet deep shelves, so these are going to be easier to stock. We're going to be able to stock from behind and not have the carts in the aisles. Because of them not being as deep, it's going to give us wider aisles. And so we're really excited about the new shelves. We've mentioned this, new signs. Monica has helped us with the signs, and we're going to have multiple languages on those signs. So the big ones that I just mentioned that's going to go on top of the shelves are going to also have Somali, Spanish, and Russian. Largest English, and then those other languages as well. So Carol, you had asked, it's going to be on the shopping list, is going to be available in multiple languages, as well as those languages on our signs throughout our food shelf.
Will we use pictures on the shelf signage and on the shopping list?
We don't have pictures. We've just translated it into the multiple languages at this point.
Natalie?
Yeah.
Are all the shelves in the whole area going to be only as deep as the kids' summer market?
No. Some of the sections, I've made them double wide, so where it's a 4 feet by, I think it's 18 inches, I put 2 of them on some of the sections so that we, it's double. Double this way and double that way. Okay. Healthier foods offered first and eye level. I think they did a very thorough job talking about that. We're also going to attempt to have cleaner looking shelves. We're going to have less signage throughout the food shelf. I know that you mentioned about stocking. The idea with stocking from behind is to move some of those magnets that we currently have behind. So you can still have direction on where to stock and everything like that. But all those little magnets are now out, not on the shelves, because that's a lot of stimulation, I think, for some of our clients. We're going to clean it up by putting the cans, and you're just going to reface them, because guess what? The green bean can says green beans on the front. So we're just going to kind of put all of those items together, reface, and clients are going to clearly be able to see in the fruit and vegetable section that it's all canned vegetables and what those vegetables are. So, we're going to avoid handwritten signs wherever possible. We're going to be 2 = 1 or whatever things that we need to put. We're going to print them and make them look nice. And also, we are going to replace cardboard boxes with plastic bins. Target has generously donated a bunch of different sizes of plastic bins, and so we're going to be replacing cardboard boxes, which I think will look really nice.
On the shelves?
On the shelves.
Will they have openings so that clients can reach in and get things, or are they going to have to pull
They won't have openings. They will have to pull them out. However, the shelves, if you remember, are not as deep. So it's going to
with
be...
canned goods too?
Well, no, the canned goods won't be in bins.
Okay.
No,
That's what we need.
no, the items that can just be on the shelf will be on the shelf. It's the items that need what we use as a cardboard box now will have a bin in place of it. But most of the items hopefully will not have.
So a lot of those cardboard boxes, we cut the fronts on so that you can see and access them.
And that's something, that we're gonna have to work with. The ones that were donated from Target do not have the cutout. But, we just gotta work with this, and if it's something that we realize, oh my goodness, the clients are pulling out and they're falling all over, then we solve that. So, as we work this out, we'll see what works and what we need to change.
I think you already said that they're clear, right? So you can
Yep.
kind of see them.
Yep, they're clear.
Do we sort in them in the back as well and bring them out that way, or is there going to still be when we sort, right now we sort into banana boxes.
Right.
Then we bring them out.
Target has donated more than what we have kind of estimated that we need for the food shelf. And so my guess is that we'll be able to do some in the back if you want to put a bunch of canned carrots, or not canned carrots because we're not using it for cans, but let's say a big thing of chips. Even though it's at the very end and the very it's still a choice. But there's bins available.
An example could be those small pastas and rice things that are flopping over. I just, they're
Yep.
Envelopes.
They're envelopes.
Yep.
They need to stand up in
Yep.
something. That would be perfect.
We have a small little bin that all those will be in there.
But I don't know what the bigger.
Exactly. Okay. I'm going to move on, but we're going to be talking about this more. The transformation doesn't happen until the 11th and 12th of September. As you come in for your volunteer shifts, all of the staff, including myself, is available for questions, and we want you to feel as prepared as possible. So we will keep talking about it as well. Distribution of food to clients, we talked about that. We are going to be switching from the color dot system to the shopping list. Feel like that is going to allow an even more dignified experience for our clients. It'll also get rid of some of the clutter on the shelves too with all the dots and things like that. We just think it will clean up the food shelf as well. It will also decrease some anxiety for clients as they wait, because we're going to be giving them their shopping list right when they check in. So as they're waiting in the lobby, they can look at the shopping list, they can already see what they're going to be getting. They'll also be able to meal plan, kind of knowing what to expect when they come to the food shelf. And we've already mentioned this, but it'll come in multiple languages as well. Okay, stocking the shelves. We have new stocking standards. Nora and Nathan mentioned this as well, but ICA has more guidance now on what is going to go on our shelves. Because we have very educated, wonderful people that are giving input to both myself and Ellie and all the staff as far as what we're stocking. You will notice that some of our non-perishable items are going to be grouped in new categories. Ellie and I are working together to make sure those are communicated to you. We wouldn't expect you to know that canned pumpkin is now in the canned vegetables unless we tell you that. So we're gonna make that as clear as possible. I mentioned this, stocking will occur from behind. We're gonna make the signage as clear as we can. We're gonna take input from all of you experts as to ways that we can make that as easy as possible.
Well, that's smart too, because then your expiration dates are from the newest to the oldest.
Exactly.
We don't have to keep checking expiration.
Throughout the shelf. Yes, exactly. I already mentioned this, that we have new plastic bins from Target. And then that our signage that is going on each of the shelves is going to be in multiple languages. Cooking oil. So one of the things that SuperShelf is encouraging us as well, as you probably saw throughout the presentation, is to encourage our clients to cook more. And one big conversation, I heard it come up earlier, I think it might have been you, Laura, is that cooking oil is important to cook with. So you're going to see cooking oil available. That's one thing that we are going to change. We are going to stock cooking oil. That also may mean that you don't see butter or margarine. That's going to be based on donations, but we have agreed to purchase cooking oil. Baked goods, you will see a difference in baked goods as well with the healthy foods policy coming. Our baked goods are going to be at the end. They'll be on the bottom rows. We're also might start putting some artisan breads with baked goods to provide a healthier choice within the baked goods categories, but we're not taking away the choice of a client having baked goods.
What are you going to do with like the gluten-free? Is that going to be mixed in with each section, or is that still going to be a separate?
It'll still be a separate section.
Okay, just a silly question.
Yep, no, totally fine. Okay, volunteers, you're awesome, first of all, and we appreciate it. So we understand that this is change, and we just appreciate your flexibility as we, go forward in this change. We believe that this is going to be a great thing for our clients, and so thank you ahead of time for just partnering with us in making ICA even better for our clients. I kind of broke down the roles just a little bit. The main role for client support volunteers is to host our neighbors. I love all the examples that you gave, Nathan, of just all the volunteers and the staff interacting with clients, being friendly and welcoming them, and then also sharing recipes, sharing ideas. I hear that all the time. And I love when clients cook for us and they bring, once they gave the idea, they wanted to make it for us and bring it in. So we want to continue that sort of friendliness that we already have at ICA. As far as the one-on-one help, I know that's probably a main question that client support has. All of our new clients are definitely going to need one-on-one help to explain how the food shelf works. We also have many clients that just request it, that need it, that they have, whether it's for a physical reason or another reason that they just want help around the food shelf. So we'd love to still be able to offer that with our client support volunteers.
Natalie, isn't everybody going to be a new client on the 13th?
Yes, that's a great question. Actually, that's one of my points, is that For the first couple months after the transformation, the food shelf will look different. We would love for everyone to get that one-on-one time, and different clients are gonna feel comfortable quicker than others, and there will be definitely a transition time of everyone getting one-on-one help around the food shelf, and then as they feel comfortable, then they go on their own.
We still do 15 a shift then? 15?
Yep, the
Okay, I mean,
appointment
you're still
block
doing
is staying
number
the
of people?
same as we have it now. Yep, Carol.
Will there be any changes in the freezer section?
In the freezer section, right now, no. That will stay the same.
What do you mean by that, a point system and all that?
The point system will stay the same on our shopping list. If anyone's really curious, I do have an example. It's not on a slide, but I can show you afterwards. But we'll keep the point system on the shopping list. So if you are a household of one, how many points you get is on that shopping list. Okay. Stocking and refacing is going to be really important, and that's going to be both a food logistics and client support role. With these smaller shelves, we're excited at the how it's going to show abundance of a food shelf, and we're also going to look full because they're smaller. It's easier for them to look very full, but we're also going to need to stock a lot more often. And don't get nervous. And refacing the shelves. And so as client support and food logistics work together to help that appearance of abundance is going to be really important. Food logistics, similar to what you do now, receiving and sorting all food shelf donations, culling fruit and vegetables, preparing items as needed, personal items, pet food, emergency bags, what you're doing now. And stocking and refacing the food shelf as well.
And do you anticipate that this will take people much longer to shop? Because we do have clients who are now taking a long time.
Yeah, we will see. This is just an experiment. We think it's a worthwhile experiment. We think that it's very client-centered, this approach. And so we will see, and we'll work out the kinks. I'm sure there will be some, but we think that the benefits to our clients are going to be worthwhile.
Well, I think since I've been there, we've had at least 2 or 3 changes as far as, and after quite a few couple of days, everybody gets their groove on, and it's.
Yeah. And I know a lot of clients will really appreciate the ability to kind of just go through. Yeah.
How do we measure our progress in this health foods, and do we have a baseline established?
Yeah, so we are analyzing data all the time. The food slips that we fill out with the pounds, and the 2 weeks a year we take how much non-perishable, how much perishable, how much non-food. We definitely analyze all that data. We have a client survey once a year,
18 months here.
every 18 months that we ask clients. We get some of the responses that you mentioned as far as wanting more protein, more fish, more fruits and vegetables, things like that. So that's consistent with what our findings are. But we do ask clients. And the last survey, when we switched went from client or volunteers going one-on-one with around the whole food shelf to clients shopping more on their own, what they're currently doing now, we ask clients, how do you like that change? What do you prefer? Things like that. So we're always asking clients for feedback. There's also a comment box in the lobby that clients can always give us feedback as well. In interest of time, I want to let people go, but I'll be around if you want to ask me any other questions. Obviously, the staff is here as well. We do have to ask everyone to do a really quick survey. They would appreciate it very much. And I just want to give one more round of applause to Nancy and Nora.